Hello, everyone. David Wallach here, New View Safety Coach, and welcome to another episode of the Shut Up David series. We got a superstar for you today. He wouldn't like me saying that, but he is. National awards, all that kind of stuff. I hope he's got his fingers in his ears because he really doesn't like people saying these kind of things about him. But I've got an intro to go over just to set the scene. So I'm excited to have Josh Bryant, Mitchell Services here today, as we dive into the world of organizational learning, safety, high performance teams, and community. Community is a big thing with Josh. With over 20 years of diverse experience in the mining industry, Josh has had the privilege of working for some of the largest global companies in Australia. Throughout his career, he's developed a deep passion for driving change and transformation within organizations with genuine care for the people he works with. As a senior exec and general manager of people, risk, and sustainability, he's had a unique perspective on what it takes to foster a culture of collaboration. Again, collaboration, community, engagement, and continuous improvement. He's been fortunate to lead initiatives as the implementation of Human and Organisational Performance, HOP, which have helped his and other organizations enhance their safety practices and foster a learning mindset. So, hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for that intro, and I'll bring him on now and we'll say hello. Mr. Josh.
Yeah, payment for the kind words has just gone through, mate. So it says that the funds have been transferred. So thanks for the kind introduction.
How many zeros came after that?
I think the decimal wasn't right. It should have gone to the left a little bit more. So yeah. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you, Josh?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me on, mate. I know I know these have been quite successful. I've been able to listen to a few so far with Steve and Mark. I missed Christus and Ivan so far, but I will catch up. But congratulations on doing these, man. It's fantastic. Make more people accessible. Let them share their stories. It's excellent. Well done, mate.
No, thank you. And I appreciate that. And I really appreciate your time coming on as well. I know you're flat stick and
mate, I'm in
as well and everything. So
I'm in my bedroom because I got visiting family. So I've been punted from my office, which has usually got Formula One cars and a giant lion behind me, but I've been punted to my own freaking bedroom. So yeah, thanks, man.
No worries. Thank you. For those to set a bit of a context for this as well, Josh and I caught up earlier on this week, and we were having a brief chat as to what this conversation will be about. And we spent about half an hour, 45 minutes going back and forth. We should have recorded that, actually, shouldn't we? We should have recorded that and just put that out, because that was gold as well. There were so many nuggets in there. But we came upon a theme after about half an hour of going backwards and forwards. And that theme was for Josh's position within the organization and what he's managed to achieve, which was influencing up within the organization to the exec members and leading around, leading not just his people and clients, because Mitchell serves as a contractor, but also the wider community and the wider community as well. So with that theme in mind, why don't we start at the beginning for the people who don't know anything about Mitchell Service and why you decided to start on this journey of HOP?
Yeah. Okay. So my background's predominantly mining, right? And I worked in many technical roles outside of safety, technical and managerial roles. I actually started my career as a geologist. I won't say it was a great one, but I think what geology brings is one is a scientific mind or a questioning mind, or a curious mind, and the other one is you've got to be really good at storytelling, because you've got to be able to take the data and piece that stories together. So, worked in a number of mining houses in geology and technical roles, and then moved into safety within mining, and then had the opportunity to join Mitchell Services in about 2016. So I've been with them for a while. It was right at the beginning of 2016. So Mitchell Services are basically a drilling company. So we own big bits of equipment and use steel pipe to spin diamond bits really fast into the earth and extract a sample, or we can use it for degassing, or we can use it for delineation of ore bodies. That's basically what we do. So when I started with the business,
let's just show a quick screen of Mitchell Services. People,
no worries.
The website.
Come online. So it's the way to picture us is that we're a contracting company. We own the equipment and the people, and we work for mining houses anywhere from tier one multi-billion-dollar companies to junior explorers that have only got a very small leadership team, maybe $5 million or more in the bank, and we'll go and drill for those guys. So when I joined the business, Dave, we had about 160 people, 50 drill rigs of operating. There was probably 20, so it was small. Share price was about 1.2 cents. And I brought traditional safety in, right? I just came in and you just went, okay, you investigate and that person did the wrong thing, and you put them on what's called a red dog, which is a bus, or a window seat, which is a plane, right? It was, and it really was. And I'd only really just started to like learn about, new view safety and etc. But Mitchell Services as a business today is about 900 people. So it's sort of a medium-sized company. 100 drill rigs, of which probably over 85 to 90% are operating at the moment. So 90 staff, share price about, I don't know, 35 cents. It's gone gangbusters, low overhead. But look, very small HSE team. I've always worked with about 5.
Yeah, right.
And then probably the same number in training as well. All right. So yeah, that's how big my team is. So probably trying to piece it together. We have all these equipment. We have the people that work for us. We work for mining houses. So we might go to a mine and have 1 drill rig there, or we could have 7. So we work in the sphere of whatever the client does. So sometimes we have to adopt their systems. Sometimes they'll adopt ours. Sometimes they'll have nothing and we'll just use ours. So it's super challenging. It can be quite high risk, just in terms of like the machinery that's used, etc. But we've done a lot of work around critical risk management and changes. So look, I hope that paints a big enough picture. It's organized chaos for 25 clients on 34 different sites all around Australia. When I first started, I could almost name everyone's kids. Like, not only know their names, I could name their kids and what they did. And now I just do not have a chance.
Yeah. Some days that's pretty impressive, because some days I don't even know my own name. I'm going to be honest with you, Josh. So remembering other people's names is pretty good. Hey, look. So you came into this. Obviously, Mitchell Drilling Services is increased exponentially over the time that you've been there. And you said you got introduced to NewView and HOP and Safety 2. What was it about hearing of it and learning about it that made you think that's what I want to do at Mitchell Services? Mitchell Services.
For me, it's a personal thing, and it's good because I had a really good chat to a peer a couple of nights ago, Tim Fitch. So he used to work for me, but we were like, how did we get this right? And what it was is that the NewView way of thinking, whether it was initial for us safety differently, but then it was HOP, it actually aligned with our own values. So it actually like seeing people as a solution, like, that's always treated people equally, and always looked at them, quite humbly and asked lots of questions. My father was my father was actually a driller, so he always taught me, don't get your head up your own ass, be around the people, ask lots of questions, always be interested. That was my dad. So that's why HOP and that landed with us so well, because it actually aligned very closely with our own personal values. So I was lucky that I had a team that was keen to learn, and it actually worked with their own values as well. And one of the company values of Mitchell Services was never openly criticize, blame fixes nothing. I was like, it's one of the HOP principles. I can sneak in HOP that way. So
that was one of the principles before you even introduced HOP.
So a lot of companies, Dave, you see they've got, it's all about collaboration and safety, and they have one word,
synergies,
our board were very direct with the values of the business. Embrace your role, execute your role. You put me on the spot now. I forgot my own company values, but it's the big thing with the board is they didn't want to pick singular names. They really wanted to spell it out for us. But our avenue in with HOP was to use, this closely aligns with never openly criticize, blame fixes nothing. And one of the HOP principles is, blame stops learning.
Blame fixes nothing. Essentially the same thing. So you had that value alignment early on, then, didn't you?
Yeah, but then you have to go into a leadership team and you go, look, we're learning about these things. It's really different to how mining's normally done, which is command and control. How are we going to do this? So it took a lot of discussion and open dialogue, I guess, with our leadership team. And it was 50-50, Dave. Like some were on board, some were not, right? And most of the time the pushback was it's either you're giving the employees free rein and saying that everything they do is right. And that's what HOP's about, is about learning. And if we don't think it's right, well, that's what procedures are for, Josh. They just do the procedures, and it's just like, well, your procedures can't capture everything. So that was probably where the difficulty was with the leadership team. But others in the leadership team were they were just willing to try something different. And they were like, well, it doesn't seem harmful. It's not going to harm the business. One even said, oh, look, it's something that we could easily wind back. And I'm just like, whoa, give me an avenue in and let's just see if we can put a bit of glue to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. But so what I've seen with other safety teams is not all the safety teams aligned. So the safety teams can be quite big. Say there's 10 people in their safety team, say there's 40. Not all those safety people are aligned to New View philosophies. I was lucky because mine were, but we moved at the same time. But we came from the same place of, well, what safety is about auditing and checking and systems. And if someone does something wrong, you investigate it. And it's usually the person stuffed up and we move them on. Yep. So we all sort of moved at the same time, Dave. So I got quite lucky there.
Yeah, right. Okay, the stars aligned for you. But, I mean, we're not taking anything away from you as well with your commitment and passion and drive and all those other things, which I know you probably won't talk about so much, but I'll put out there because I know I've spoken to people that know you and I know a little bit about you as well. So we won't take that away from you that much,
Mate,
Josh.
I actually talked to my boss about this yesterday, and I said to him, what's changed in you in the last 5 years? And he goes, I appreciate that you do openly challenge, but you come from a place of care. Yeah. So, I will, they'll go, oh, what a dickhead. He shouldn't have done that. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Let's try and ask the questions about sense making. And if you're going to say shit like that, you don't say it in an open forum. Do it in a closed door with me and let's talk about it there. So I usually, the one line I always use with my boss, if you and I were on that rig and done that same thing, we would have done something even more stupid. So...
And what does he say? Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So the result has been a really close, trusting relationship with my boss, who's the CEO. So I'm lucky there. But I've always came from a place of care, respect. I've never tried to put him at harm, the business at harm, a client at harm. It's a genuine, hey, let's try and learn first before we do all this blaming, shooting, etc.
Yeah, cool. And I'm glad you brought that up, Josh, because it was part of the conversation we had earlier in the week as well, which was what you and I both wanted this to be about. Was you obviously in the context of New View and coaching and all that kind of jazz, but to talk about your values as an individual, because when you have companies who are looking at these types of things, unless their own values and principles are aligned with the HOP philosophy or New View philosophy, it's not going to work, is it? And the underlying values of these methodologies, whatever you want to call them, is predominantly care for your people and learning. And unless you have them as your own core value and principles, which you do, then it's unlikely to work, isn't it? Really,
Dave. A conversation I had with Stephen Harvey was if what's going on around you is fighting against your own values, you're going to get sick. You're actually going to be sick. And this is the whole context drives behavior. Yeah. If you're in an environment where your values don't align with the company's or your values don't align with how your leadership team's behaving, you're actually going to get sick.
Yeah.
You're going to get stressed, or you're just going to be off at work, or you're not going to be engaged, or you're not going to be truthful, or you're not going to put in, all the effort. So that value, your own value set. So I guess you move into a business and you go, okay, I've got to align with the company's values. I get that, but you got to ensure that there's not a massive gap between your values and what the company actually really does.
Yeah, and you don't compromise your own values as well. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
So what are your? I mean, we touched on two of them there a little bit. What would you say would be your main values? What do you want to get out of these talks? Why do you come and share this information?
Oh, it's a tough one, and sometimes I go, "Fuck, am I giving too much away?" But it's we want to show that you can have success using these new view methodologies, using HOP. Everyone wants a tool, Dave. Everyone goes, "Oh, so what tool did you use?" It's like, no, like if you apply these principles in your context, you can have real success here, and you actually get fulfillment in your own role because you're learning. Like I was saying to my guys, like 70%, no joke, 70% of the role of my HSE guys in my team is operational learning. The other 30% is doing, system checks, doing critical control effectiveness tests, doing the paperwork. It's not the paperwork though. For us, it's the assurance work.
Yeah.
For me, the reason I try and give so much is, one, I don't ask for a lot of permission to share what I do. Two, again, it's the right intent. Dave, I know we joke, but I've actually had conversations with our competitors and gone, I want to beat you on price. I want to beat you on performance. I want to beat you on our people. I don't want to beat you on safety.
Yeah, right.
I'd rather the drilling industry have a good name, and that we're working towards the same things, but I'll beat you in other ways.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I share, right? Is that it's probably not enough people are open enough to share what's going on. Maybe they're not. Hopefully I know they're proud of their work, but whether they're able to share from their organization or share from their own point of view, or it's just like, I don't really want to put myself out there. Maybe that's a development opportunity. Is like, stretch yourself and share. Like there's a thirst, Dave. Like the community wants to learn from one another. We just need more people to unlock and show us what you're doing.
Yeah. And I know some people might listen to this and go, and they're big words. Sharing is a great word, and you've said it a few times there. But I would like you, if you could, to talk about what we talked about earlier in the week, which is you're actually going into your client sites and sharing information on HOP. And you're not even being paid for this. This isn't even your job role or description. So, and I know we only talked about it earlier this week, and it wasn't for a topic of conversation now, but I just want to put this out there because I want people to know that when you say you do share, you share with clients, you share with competitors, you share with everybody in industry, regardless of who they are, don't you?
Yep.
Why do you? I mean, it sounds like a stupid question. You just told us why, but why do you share with your clients?
So what I try to do is when I first joined Mitchell Services, I came from a large mining house, which was BHP. And what I said to my boss and the leadership team is, if we want to be successful, we need to look like our clients. So we need to actually look like, we've got robust systems and that we know what we're doing and we've got good safety and a good culture and and then they'll feel comfortable with us. But what I've found is that more and more of the messaging that we give out, which is about, hey, this is what surprised us, this is what we've learned, it's almost like softer language. It actually goes against the way that the clients are communicating events. Every person must reread this procedure. Every person must be familiar with this. These people should have done this. So I've been a bit more careful to go, I've got to meet our clients where they are, but I also need to let them know why we do what we do and where we're going. So there's some of our largest clients have actually, we did external HOP training first, Dave, and then we were like, that's excellent. We've got no money. We're POVO-as. So how are we as a HSE team going to bring the organization forward? So you do it yourself. And that's what I don't see a lot of is you got to be creative and how can we do this ourselves? Oh, we've already got a leadership program in place. Cool. Let's sneak HOP into that leadership program and train our supervisors in HOP. But let's use our own examples for each of the principles. So we did that, right? And that got the supervisors on board. Contextualize it, right? So that's what we've done with our clients. We've let them know that, hey, this is why we use HOP and the language we use and how we communicate events and how we investigate. And this is how we're communicating critical risk. And we've actually had some clients go, now I know why you put that slide in the toolbox talk. That's
Sneaky.
why you guys. That's why you
Sneaky
guys
Josh.
don't talk about TRIF. Yeah. So, and again, other clients have got us up. Like I'm speaking. I don't know when this will come out, Dave. It doesn't matter. But a client's asked me to come up and speak at a contractors forum.
Yep.
And the view could be, be more like this contractor. But my view is to get up there and go, I'm a peer, and this is what's worked for us, and here's the mechanics of how to do it. But you've got to have this belief in like these overall principles first. Make sure you got your critical risk all together. Otherwise, you don't get a seat at the table. If you don't have critical risk management, you don't get a seat at the table. So that's why I share with clients, mate, is to, I guess, give them a position of comfort that this is why we're doing what we're doing. Give them our context on, that's why they don't beat their people up when there's an incident, and they're a bit more calmer and go, okay, can you tell us why that made sense? So hope that answered that question, Dave.
No, it did. It did, mate. And it reminded me again of that theme that we spoke about at the beginning, which was the leading around, which was, so you're in the middle there. If like how I sort of see it is you're in the middle. You've got obviously your executive above you, and then around you, you've got your people that you work with, and you've got your clients
and supervisors.
And supervisors,
Yep.
supervisors, people you work with, your clients, and the community as a whole. And it almost feels like you've taken it upon yourself to be a leader in that community, and saying, look, this is how we're doing it. If it's of use to you and of benefit to you, learn from us, and let's all grow together. That sounds like what is coming across to me. Yeah.
It's as a contractor, sometimes it comes across that you got to be all showy and promotional, etc. We've tried not to be like that, particularly around safety and our safety performance and the things that we've changed. Like, it is a genuine share with the industry going, hey, we're able to share. We don't need to get lawyers' permission to show these 4 slides at this conference. Like I said, most of the time I don't ask for permission and just show shit. So, but again, we've got probably more opportunity than maybe some businesses to share openly what we do. And, but what we'd like is that, we get different industries reaching out, construction, pharmacy, small goods manufacturing reach out and just go, how did you just do this? And then like, they'll try and take that from us and apply it to their own business as well. So that's, again, that provides satisfaction to go, hey, we use this, or, we took TRIF away as well, and it was amazing. No one talks about TRIF anymore. I'm like,
talking about that, why don't we bring up that slide that we managed to get in just before the talk here, which called 100 Small Things so then you can talk about, okay, so you came into Mitchell Services when they're a lot smaller. You heard about new view safety methodologies. It aligned with your personal values and beliefs and morals as well. And, fortunately with the senior leadership and with the team around you as well. But like you said a few minutes ago, and your department's Povo. I mean, you got no money.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, I know. Neither do I.
I wouldn't say we have zero budget, but we are mindful that, we need to add value to the business. The business gets more value when a drill rig is operating and our people are not harmed and they're able to do their work and there's no constraints. I'd rather spend money on a drill rig than I would on some posters, campaigns, putting videos and shit together when I can do that myself. So look,
what's wrong with those zero harm key rings as well? I mean, everyone loves a zero harm key ring.
The most advertising I've done, and it made me a bit ill when I did it, but it was actually a supervisor requested, and he said, what I wouldn't mind is like the hot principles on a sleeve. And like, so we've done that with a couple of shirts, but there's nothing else anywhere with the hot principles printed on it. Like anywhere. We sort of just did it as a special one-off. Look, I'll explain the 100 small things because it will be useful for your audience, right? But I didn't create this. This was taught to me when I was at BHP, but it was actually taught by a guy called Don Ash, right? And what the 100 small things are is like how you're doing things with deliberate intent and consistency to make change. So the way I guess to frame it is to go, how do you want things? How do you want things to be? Like, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? What do you currently see? And then go out and by talking to your people, try and understand the underlying mythologies on why people think the way they do. So an example would be, all the business cares about is numbers. And you just go, why is that? Oh, because every time we see a toolbox talk, it's TRIF this and injury-free days this and da-da-da. And it's like, so maybe if we talked more about what we're learning in the business and what we're changing and improving, that's more engaging with our people. Oh, that's exactly right. And then you change the mythology. So where do you apply the 100 small things? So everyone goes, well, what's the list of the 100? No, it's like, it doesn't, you could be 1,000, who cares? But Don called it the 100 small things. So the way that myself and my team approached this, so this was, Tim Fitch, Rob Ayton, Mark Alston assisted us at that stage as well, is we had a look at all the touch points where we interact with our people and went, how do we weave new view language into this? And what are we making important at each of these points? And let's change that so that we change that underlying mythology about what we make important. So for an investigation, all people were waiting for is what happened to the guy.
Yeah.
Like literally, we would go out and go, when an event learning comes out, so when an incident investigation comes out and we communicate to we just want to see what happened to the guy.
Yeah.
So we changed that, Dave, to go, let's call an investigation an event learning. And then leaning on leaning into the community. Beth Lay in the pandemic, she would share everything they were doing at Lewis Tree. And one thing they introduced was about what surprised us. So we introduced that into our event learning communication. What we thought would happen versus what happened, what surprised us, what did we learn, and what have we changed and how. So never mention anything about, now we want you guys to go and read procedure XYZ. It was, the organization learnt these things. The CEO's message, right? It used to just be, oh, yeah, the market's really good. Everyone's drilling. Hope you're well. Instead now, it's a real, hey, we'd like to congratulate these people on their years of service. Here's how the critical risks program's going at the moment. Here's all the fails that we found. The 4D workplace insights are showing these improvements. Here's what's going on in the business. So like really changing the language and what we made important at every step that we engage with our people. So if I was someone listening to this, I'd go, right, I'm a safety person. Like, what do I do? Okay, where does all the points that safety interacts with people in your business and with the leadership team, and what are the things that we can make that's a small change and more aligned to something like the HOT principles or safety differently, etc. That's where the change will happen. We did it really small. We called it ninjaing. You just ninja it in. Sometimes you don't ask for permission, and if you think you're going to get in trouble, you probably won't if you're working with the right intent, or just don't get caught.
Yeah. Or it's always easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Yeah.
That's what they say as well, isn't it? You know what? When you're talking about this, something came to my mind the first time I heard about you, really, which was from a hop class with South Pacific when they came over to here in Perth about 5 years ago.
Southpack and Hop Lab.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were talking about you. People were asking them, okay, well, what about implementation and stuff? And that's where I first heard about your 100 small things. And the thing that stuck in my mind more than anything, because I was just in the beginning of my journey into Hop, New View. I'd done the degree at Griffith University under Sidney Decker, but I hadn't really got any insights as to what that looked like in a practical sense in the real world. Obviously, the academic side of things was all there, and I remember it being discussed that one of the things you did, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, is you didn't stop reporting on TRIFA and LTI. You still kept it because you need it for your clients and you need it for reporting. You just didn't communicate that's the front line. Is that right?
Correct. So again, using that example, if you're a safety professional and you're controlling the messaging that's going out to the people via toolbox talks, we just took it out. If we're in control of it, we just took it away. So, and then what happened with the TRIF is that we were going, well, what does TRIF do? Well, TRIF drives people to like hide stuff and, classify things incorrectly just to make the numbers look good. So Rob Ayton and I, who basically worked together closely and put the TRIF together, we just almost stopped emailing it to people. So only the leadership team started getting the TRIF and none of the supervisors. So there used to be a monthly email that would come out to all the supervisors and go, this is what the TRIF is. Here's the injuries for the month. We stopped sending that. We used to do posters that had like, this site's had 299 days injury free. We stopped making the posters, didn't ask for permission. CEO one day went, are we still doing those posters? I was like, yeah, move on. And then even with the board, right, is that the board wanted to know what the TRIF was because they see it as part of like contracts, right? You got to put it in contracts. So is the TRIF a good number? So I started to put the critical risk data on top of the TRIF and dragging it down into the board pack. And then I put in operational learning and like drag TRIF further into the board pack. And in my mind, it's like, well, if they're having a board meeting, it goes for 3.5 hours and at least an hour of that is spent on safety. If they've gone through the top pages and it's all about organizational learning and critical risk management, they won't even have time to get to the TRIF or the injury. So, and it worked. And that's what worked. So
this is your ninja technique. This is your ninja techniques of.
And I've shared that I've shared that story with heaps of people. But you know, we've even got to a stage where I stopped emailing the leadership team what the TRIF was, and they haven't had it in a year, and they probably don't even know what they're missing. They don't know.
So he's the $1 million question, Josh, and I'm sure it's going to be on lots of people's mind when they're watching this. What has happened to your traditional safety metrics since you started, working with NewView Safety?
Oh, you know what? When I told that TRIF story, I was at a conference. I fucking always go over time, right? And it's only because I'm trying to give as much as possible. But there was a mentee question came up, and from the audience, right? And they were like, "Oh, any questions? Oh, we don't have time for questions." And there was only one question there, and it said, "What's your TRIF?" So they were having a piss take, right? Because I've just stood up on stage going, "Oh, try and hide the TRIF." And it's like, "Oh, is it because your TRIF rate's like 2,000?" Being completely honest, we've never focused on the number. So if you go, Josh, what's happened to your metrics over time? We've never purposely gone, okay, the metric was 10 last year and it needs to be 20% less this year. We've never had that as a target, right? We've had it more qualitative work than quantitative. So we more focus on the stories, the improvements, etc. in the business rather than pure numbers. But it's a funny thing, man. We were trying to put together some numbers to share at Wollongong at the Global Safety Innovation Summit, and like we just went, we should have a look at stuff like all injury frequency rate and that, because we don't care about that shit, right? We'd rather like, okay, what's the 4Ds telling us? What's the themes? And we had a look at it. We've actually halved our all injury frequency rate since the implementation of critical risk management, operational learning, getting rid of stuff like TRIF. Even the TRIF rate's gone from, God, I think when I started it was 42, 45, and now it's like we can't hide behind our hours either, Dave. We've got like less than 2 million hours a year. So you have a recordable injury, your TRIF goes up and down like a rocket. Our TRIF is like 4.6 or something. Like, jeez. I only know that because my CEO had a crack at me in a meeting. He's like, "There's no way that company's TRIF can be that low. Like their rugged be is as high as Everest. They've swept that much shit under it." He goes, "Oh, I bet our TRIF is better." And then he turned to me, he goes, "You wouldn't even know what our TRIF is, Josh." So like, but that's the importance that I place on it. I just don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. So the metrics that matter to me, if you're saying, "Oh, what's happened to your metrics?"
I was just going to ask you, if you're not concentrating on that, what are you concentrating on?
So what we do concentrate on is we ensure that the critical control verifications are being done on our plant and equipment and our work sites. They are done by frontline workers and leaders in the business. So it's not just fob that off to the net. Like, we all do it. So we're all responsible for critical risk management. What I look for is, what's the number of critical control fails or opportunities for improvement in the business, and are they going up and down? So is the business warm to bad news or is it not? And so what we're finding on a monthly basis is that critical controls maybe fail 0.8% to 1.2% in the month. So we might have like 40 critical control fails, but most of them are opportunities for improvement. So the supervisor's gone, it was there, but I reckon it's degrading and I think it was bent. And so we need to figure out what's going on here. Or, the automatic gate isn't closing automatically anymore. I think we need to like put a defect in. So that's sort of the things I look for. And then the other metric I look at is basically 4D workplace insights. So that's where people are out having conversations in the business, understanding, what doesn't make sense, what's difficult, what's different, and what's dangerous in your work context. And do those 4Ds that are coming, do they have actions? Do they have ownership? So we're having 4Ds come into the business, usually entered by a supervisor. They'll go out and have a conversation, go, oh, you know what? I learned something today and we should probably change that. They'll put a 4D in the system. That then goes to our HSE people. So a notification goes to all of HSE and goes, this 4D's been put in the system. The HSE person then goes, well, what's the next step? Like, is this a learning opportunity? Does this belong with like maintenance? What it's driven in our business is people are picking up the phone more and talking more. So there's more and more relationship building because it's like, hey, I've got this 4D come in and they just want to make this adjustment to this workbench and they're looking at some tooling and they go, well, that's an engineering change. So we're going to have to get a specialist. And it's like, who should I talk to? Oh, ring Parker. Okay, no worries. I'll give Parker a call. So more and more people in the business are talking. So if anything, I would go, the things I look at, Dave, is critical control verifications, not just number of done, but where are the fails? Are they consistent? Are they systemic?
Yep.
Is it something that can impact the business? And it's exactly the same thing with the 4Ds. Is that a local issue or is it a systemic issue or is it just a side issue? They're the things I focus on the most. That's my day-to-day is literally critical risk management and organizational learning.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, right. And
but mate, we are doing the assurance stuff on top of that, right? We are doing, the things that ISO requires. We're doing as minimal of that as we possibly can to get certified, because if I'm not certified, a client goes, do you want to apply for this tender? You need to fill out these 50 pages of documents. But if you're ISO certified, just put the cert here. And I go, here's my cert.
Yeah. Stamp.
So anyway, mate, sorry to crap on.
No, you're not at all. And it's important to say that because few companies that I've spoken to about HOP over here in WA, they're like, oh, it means we've got to replace everything and then bring in HOP. And it's like, no, it's not that. You don't do that. It's not an all or nothing scenario. You still have to meet your legal requirements. You still have to meet your legislated standards and codes of practice, and you still got to do due diligence, and you still got to do all those things. But you have to give it its correct proportionality. It's not everything. It's 40, 50%. Maybe not even that, 20, 30, 40%, whatever it is. And the rest of it really should be focused on creating an environment where the organization can learn about what has gone wrong and what could go wrong in the future. And that operational improvement process as well. And I was going to ask you when you were talking about metrics, because
I was going to ask you, can you minimize this so I can see you? Like
you don't want to see me. Let's be honest.
I do want to see you. I want to have that face-to-face conversation.
Let's get this off the way. Where is it? Remove.
Thanks, man.
Anyway, like I was saying, I was going to ask you when you were talking about metrics and about the qualitative stuff that you do observe and the things that are important to you as a leader within the organization. Have you noticed, aside from the safety metrics, have you noticed any other metrics or have you looked at any of the metrics that would have changed in the organization? And one that came to mind straight away was your retention record, the turnover of staff. Has that changed? Is that something you're aware of?
It has. I think every industry is going through at the moment with the, people leaving and changing, etc. Probably
Australia's just right for it at the moment, isn't it?
One metric, and I shared this in Wollongong as well, mate. And when I refer to Wollongong, there was a safety innovation summit, probably the most recent sort of conference there was. But we shared there that one metric that has really stood out for us with the implementation of HOP, and it's because of the way that leaders are now approaching their people and how the business approaches people. People leaving the business, Dave, it used to be about 11% would leave, and in their exit interview, they would put that it was due to leadership. So whether that's the attitude, so whether it's the attitude of the supervisor or whether they felt cared for, sitting down and speaking with our HR lead, he said that less than 1% of our exit interviews are now due to leadership. Most of them are
Wow.
just it's the fly in, fly out lifestyle. It's being
Yeah.
away from home. They'd rather take less pay, be home more. Like, it's what's important
Yeah.
to them. There's been that change. So that's been a huge metrics that's changed. The other one is we've had a reduction in damage events.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a reduction in cost in the business with what's been damaged, and it's because we've improved our control and we've really focused on work design.
Yeah.
So that's probably the 4D conversations about learning and work design. So we haven't done any behavioral intervention programs. We haven't gone, oh yeah, we need to do a campaign on hands and fingers because we're having these. We stepped away from that. Drives me. My boss goes, oh, we need a campaign for that, and I'm like, oh, and he knows it just grinds me, right? Because that campaign, that poster, that 4-week focus or whatever, doesn't change work, doesn't change the conditions of work.
Yeah.
So that's the reason that damage events have gone down, is because we've changed work design in that it now is easier to do things well.
Yeah. Yeah. And your people have that opportunity to be able to communicate with what isn't working well up the stream.
Yeah,
Upstream as
100%.
well.
100%.
How do you find your obviously you go around to sites as well and you talk to people, and that's part of your role. How do you find the shift in what information people are prepared to tell you? Has that changed much over the past 5 years as well?
A lot more, probably, because they can see the outcomes. So they can actually see that, Josh came to the rig and we had this conversation about these gates, and then suddenly the gates were getting fixed. So it was like, oh, they actually do care. And we're asking the right questions now. It's not like we go up to them like robots. And the example I always give is go, oh, I'd like to congratulate you on your housekeeping, Ivan. This looks really good. Can I talk to you about the hose on the ground? Oh, I think that could be better stored away. Oh, and what about the training for this? Like, be genuinely interested. Like, how long have you been working at the site, Ivan? Oh, have you enjoyed it? How was the onboarding? How do you find new people? Like, be genuinely interested.
Yep.
And a story will come out of that relating to work that you would never have heard of. And so one of the challenges our leadership team puts to each other is that when you come back in from the field, the question the leadership team asks is, what do you know now that you didn't know before you went to that site?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Because if you can't answer that question, you haven't had decent conversations, and you've thought as a leader that you've gone there and you know all the answers.
That frames what the objective is for that meeting, for that time on the ground. It's not about putting the tick in the box. It's not about saying you've achieved your due diligence thing, whatever it is, blah blah. It's about what have you learned new, different, interesting, even about what didn't you know that you now know about that particular site. And it's like, oh, okay, I can be curious. I can ask. I can ask anything.
And Dave, the 4D workplace insights, right? We call the 4Ds 4D workplace insights, right? Because if we go 4D discussions, it's just about a person. If we go workplace insight, give me an insight about work, and that way you can learn about the psychosocial impacts. You can learn about stresses, productivity issues, perceived production pressures. How new starters are finding working on site. Like, do they feel nervous? Do they feel nurtured? So all the 4Ds for us is go, okay, you don't have to be an expert about having a conversation with someone, right? I don't need to sit you in a room and put you through 3 days of training on how to go and be a nice human. You can go to anyone in the field and go, tell me about all the dumb shit that we make you do.
Yeah.
Like, sorry for swearing on your show.
No, mate. It's all good.
Like, tell me why this doesn't make sense to you, because it doesn't make sense to me. So it's changed the way that the business is asking questions to learn.
Yeah, and it makes it easier as well, doesn't it, for leaders and for the people to actually be able to do what is required? Because there's so many times, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, where leaders, they desperately do want to go out there and be part of it, but they default to, okay, as you said, have you done this? Have you done that? That's great. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Have you blah blah? And it's intimidating, and it doesn't. And it doesn't create a relationship for starters. I mean, I don't want people to go out there and start getting numbers and going to the cinema on the quiet with the guys out in the field. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about showing curiosity and being genuinely interested in the person and how they are working within your workplace. The 4Ds for me, I've used them as well with other clients as well when I was working, which I'm not at the moment. It's just an easy way to begin that genuine conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And a lot of change in a business can be driven by an event or a fatality or a change in ownership. For us, the change with the 4Ds happened it was from an event learning. So it was from an investigation. And I've shared it with the industry. I've only just started sharing this because Seb's let me do it. But we crushed a 25-year-old's hands in one of our machines, and one of the actions out of that was like, how actually interested are we in learning about normal work and what are the questions we're asking? And so we met Brett Sutton and Jeff Lith and Robbo, so Brent Robertson, and they were saying, oh, Lynn Fox is using this thing called the 4Ds, and what they do, it's almost like a mini learning team, and get them in a room and there's this problem and they do a quadrant and they do the 4Ds. I'm just like, that makes no sense to me. And I don't have time to do quadrants and all that shit. So why don't I just turn it into a discussion? And so Sebastian is the reason that we changed and introduced 4Ds, and it's been a gift. It really has. So it's just changed how the business learns, and it's only through changing our questions. It's just changing our question set. And when I've shared with other people in other industries get me to come in and speak for like half an hour to their teams, I'll usually just go, I can go to one of your workplaces and say exactly that question. Tell me about all the dumb stuff that we make you do.
Yep.
And I'll come back in 15 minutes with stuff that business probably didn't even know about, and it's a simple question. And I love it. I love going through the 4Ds with our leadership team, because they always go, I did not know we did that, or I can't believe we make our people do that, or that's the stupidest thing. And I'll go, yeah, it's stupid and we own it, man. It's like, but we can do something about it. So sorry to crap on, Dave, but like
no,
mate.
It's
actually energizing. Like I love it. I love learning all this stuff. Sometimes I just go, there's just so much to learn and do, or I just go, if you're a massive company, how could you do this? Start in one department.
Yeah.
Start the organizational learning in one department.
And that may be, I know you've said, you've very, very kindly said you come back on and talk about all things HOP and learning in the organization. And we haven't even touched on coaching or anything on those lines, which is fine, which is fine. But it'd be an honor if we can get you back to talk about these. And I know you've agreed to it. I just want to get it on the public record so you can't back out at a later date. And I've got it there.
Thank you, mate. I'm only kidding. I just love having these conversations, Dave, that if I can leave you with someone called the golden nugget or whatever, like if I can just leave you something that you can practically go and apply that you think will be working in your workspace, or you can reach out to me and, I can talk you more through it. I don't mind. Like I just, the community almost needs energizing, that we can look after each other.
And
it's
to that
okay
point as well.
It's okay to share.
Yeah. And to that point as well, for those of you who don't know, who aren't in Australia, and quite a lot of my subscribers actually aren't in Australia as well, Josh, Bryant, and Steve Harvey, who's done a prior video as well, they have the Safety Differently book club, the community for New View safety practitioners in Queensland. And it was after their setup over there, because they're in the eastern states, for people who don't know Australia. I'm in the western states, and this was about 14, 15 months ago. I was looking at what they were doing and having this community, which wasn't that long after COVID, really, was it? When we'd all been isolated and we'd all been separated, and they developed this community where people could come and actually talk and share ideas. And I'm like, we need that in WA as well. So it was their idea that I then copied from them and Jeff Live over in Canada. So just wanted to put that out there. When is your next book club event, actually, Josh?
Look, we're nailing down the next couple of authors, but it's a guy called Craig Bright who works for BHP. He's the one who said it. It goes, during the pandemic, there are a lot of extroverts suffering right now. So, so a lot of safety people can be introverted, and then you got Steve and I, and I always call myself an introverted extrovert. My wife goes, "You're an idiot. You're an extrovert, right?" So, but like Steve and I just bounce off each other, and we are yin and yang. We are so opposite, but I love that guy to death so much, and they're just. He's just a challenge. He's just a ball of energy, right? You got to sort of, okay, how can we harness it? But we always made the book club was never going to be about us. It was about how do we get people out of their shells and start talking over a couple of beers and a pizza, and maybe if we can get someone in to share, like they can learn as well. So that's why we sort of followed Jeff Light's lead with bringing the book club into Brisbane. I know I've actually watched your previous webinar with him. Yeah, I really wish I could put down how much effort goes into each one. It is madness. I reckon those videos that I put out, that takes a day.
Right.
But that is genuinely, I would rather spend a day on that and give someone in the safety community a 3-minute video clip that they could play in their office on a Monday and go, there's this clip here from Rob Fisher, and it's about why don't people follow rules? Why don't we watch this and have a talk about this in our local context? Like that's what I love about the book club. It's like it energizes and it makes discussion, and it's it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It really is. So
I wouldn't know. I don't put in the effort that you guys,
mate. There is so much planning. We just want to make it a good time too, right? It's not about us. We want to make those who come have a good time, and that's why we video it, because we want to just share the learnings. But some of the ones
when I saw that video about the two Bretts when they came, the Burton Ernie, and the what was it, the
Burton Ernie of blame, the Batman and Robin of learning, mate. I nearly wet my pants putting that together in Photoshop. It was a ball. But again, what we tried to do there, you just go, oh yeah, that's two people who are friendly and they're paying these guys out. It's actually being respect, because if you can laugh at them and laugh with them, then they're accessible, and they're not quasi academics. They're actually really nice people that you can have an open conversation with. So that's why we do stuff like that, mate. But coming up, we've got a few. Greg Smith's got a new book coming out, so we're going to get him in. We've got Ron Ferris coming out from the States in June, and Ray Gonzalez. He's into coaching, so we've got coaching, and the author of the Critical Steps book. Or one of the authors.
Ray Gonzalez. I've not heard of him before.
Yeah, so have a look at Ray Gonzalez. He's got a good book on coaching on Amazon. Nice, lovely guy. All these guys are ex-nuclear, right? And then we've got Ron Ferris, who's the co-author with Tony Mashara and Jim Moranis of the book Critical Steps, which really fits in well with critical risk management. Again, just to have that different view and bring these people in so they're accessible to a wider audience. Like that's why Steve and I do the book club, mate.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Awesome. All right.
I'll tell you what, one big thing there is that what Steve and I find, you think, oh yeah, book club, and then it becomes a clique, and then the normal people show up each week. We normally get probably just under 40 people attend, and from what Steve and I look at, it's probably 25 to 30% people have been there before, and all the rest are new.
Yes.
That's what
that's not too dissimilar to what I get over here as well. So there's a core of probably 15 to 16 people who are always there, generally always there, and the rest are new. And it's great seeing the new people come as well, because they're like, oh, we didn't even know we could. I'm like, no, well, this is what it's all about.
Like, how much does this cost? It's like nothing, man. Like, we're just sit there so we can take the piss out of you when Steve does his stand up at the beginning. So
have some pizza and bean. We'll have a yarn about, and we'll put the world to rights and all that kind of stuff here. It's been good, and we've loved standing. Steve and I have loved standing back and watching the relationships form. And I caught up with this person last week. Like, it's fantastic. It's great. You know what we'll have to do? We'll have to. I'll have to make my way over to Queensland for one of your big events, and we can have it as a joint thing. We'll record it for here.
Bring it on.
Obviously, you can dissect it, and then we'll just have a but we
Bring
won't
it
have any. We won't have any beers at all. Okay.
Okay, no problem. But look, yeah, anything that'll benefit the community with sharing that stuff, absolutely. Love to have you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Josh. I know you got family there. I really appreciate your time. If you could hang on just a bit while I stop the recording, just want to get some feedback from you. That'd be awesome. But thank you so much for your time, mate. Very much appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thank you. I really do appreciate the opportunity.
Cheers, mate.